Hey everybody, Rhadamant here. Thanks for tuning in to Stationeers. So, last episode I had a little bit of a problem. The problem was that some of my beautiful furnace wasn't really working as intended. I did some troubleshooting in my own time and sort of figured out what it was. So, what's going on is the switches. The fold switch is acting like a light switch, and the pump switch is also acting like a light switch, as you can see. And the way for me to fix this is to sort of change the logic around just a little bit. What is this logic writer doing? This is the furnace pump switch. Okay, so we are going to have to move around some of our logic units here. So first things first, let's leave the reagent reader and writer alone. It doesn't need to change. I can simplify the cabling here a little bit because the output... Oh, no, the input... Okay, these are backwards. Alright, let me fix the whole backward nature of it. So that means that this will be the reader and this will be the writer. No problem. I'll just swap it. So logic reader, logic writer. So the reader is going to be the furnace, and it's going to be how many reagents. Alright, and then this is going to only have the logic reader as an input, and the output is going to go to the reagent LED as setting. Okay, so that's a little bit more straightforward there, and we'll rename them as such. Reagent reader and reagent writer. Cool. Done and done. Now, all of the other logic units are going to have to be moved because of the way these switches are working. And then also, I don't want to burn out my retinas. I'll deal with a little bit of shadow. I'm going to get rid of the extra wall lights that were just absolutely killing my eyeballs. So, for the rewiring, what we need to do is isolate all of the switches that we are flipping so that they only input to the readers and writers that are associated. Annoying, sure, but absolutely necessary. So it's going to look more like this instead, and I'll fix the other side in a bit. I'm going to focus one side at a time, so I'm not juggling too many projects. Alright, so let's throw these lights. So this thing here is the furnace pump switch. So this is going to be the furnace pump reader, or writer rather. And its only input is going to come straight from this switch, and then everything else is going to get wired up normally. And that way, that the net benefit of this is that this switch can't control anything else. Now, I can't say I'm absolutely certain as to why all of my switches were acting like light switches. Why? Because I hadn't coded that logic in, but it doesn't really matter. I can rewire it like this. So this is furnace pump, and we'll name this the furnace pump writer. All right, and hook that up appropriately. So the input only can be the furnace pump switch, and the output is going to be the furnace pump, and for whether it's on or not. Okay, so that's all fixed. The console is fine. Now we have to fix the other side, as I mentioned. So the light is gone. And then also this activate button, I'm going to isolate as well. I don't know if it was causing problems, but I'd rather isolate it and know for sure. That also means that I'm probably going to have to change the way these wires are laid out, so let me go ahead and fix that. So this corner here is going to be an up, like that. Cool. And then we're going to have to get the lever data and the activate button and feed that to logic. which is going to be a little bit annoying because they're not really in awesome spots to grab that information. As you can see, some sort of pseudo-ridiculous wiring here. Alright, so these are the inputs that we're going to need. Let me go get the I/O. And it will look something... I'm going to have to run these cables kind of far. Something like that. That might not even really work. Oh, you know what? I can have it go straight down. I'll take that shortcut. That will help. Alright, so the logic writer input is going to be one of these. Oh, actually, let's put all those cables back. And then this input likewise has to be isolated. Oh, that's too close to the chute, isn't it? Alright. Alright, so now these buttons... Oh, I need a straight section. These buttons only feed to inputs and nothing else. That way they cannot screw with the power or whatever they were doing. And then the cables here are going to have to come off of the platform. Off the wall there. So it's going to be very messy cabling. And then they have to hook up to potentially here. So there's going to be some stray floating wires here. Like I said, very temporary and certainly not pretty. Actually, we can... This one will be a little bit prettier than the other one. And... corner. I'm just about out of cables. But as you can see, it will hook up like this. So, we've isolated those switches that were causing us trouble, but now we have to wire them up. So let's get the last of them wired. Now, I also wanted to mention that I did have, or rather, there are some patches. The game patched up since last episode, so there's a lot of extra fixes and the like. So if you're curious as to what's included, all you got to do is open up your game and it will have the whole change log and the patch notes and all that. There's a lot of stuff on the beta branch that I haven't touched yet. I will get around to that eventually, but haven't gotten there just yet. Now I know I'm going to need a lot more cable coils than this, but I don't want to stand here staring at the manufacturer. I'll just use these 10, finish this little project, and then it should be good to go. We're pretty close. I just needed to do some housekeeping and troubleshooting. Come on. There we go. Alright, so now these logic writers will be able to be correct. So, this is the mold writer. And this is the activate writer. Alright. Got them labeled appropriately. So the mold, its input is going to be the mold lever. Its output is going to be to the furnace itself of whether it's open or not. And then this activate button is going to be, the only input will be the activate button itself. And the output will be, again, to the furnace, whether it activates. Alright, that looks good. Now if I go in here and power everything on. I threw in the data disk so I could control what it's connected to. Power is on. Clearly I have some extra cabling here that I'm not going to need to lie around like that. Let's stack that up with its other cable friends. Alright, power's on. What does this want to control? Let's go through this carefully. There's a lot of items that it was previously controlling that it can't now. Alright, so mold writer. Let's go to the top. The reagent reader and writer, it can get rid of. The filter pump. I don't want it to power on or off. The filter pump is whether it draws into general Atmo or not. So let's not control the filter pump or the area power controller, but the furnace pump writer, sure. The furnace pump, no. I don't want it to turn on or off the furnace pump. The furnace temperature, sure. The furnace itself, no. The furnace pressure, sure. Activate writer, yep. The wall light and the mold writer. Okay. So that should be all set. So if I power that on, hypothetically, everything springs to life. The levers no longer control the anything, for that matter. Let's check out our pumps. So right now, the furnace pump is on. And this has the furnace pump turn off. Yep. Okay, that works correctly. This writer seems to be a little sad. What's going on here? Input is correct. Output is the reagents LED. The reagents LED is probably not wired up to anything anymore. That cable does look like it goes nowhere. But to be certain, I have to rip up some flooring. And walling and the like. So let's put all the flooring and walling that I'm... Oh, open the mold. Hello? Maybe this isn't working. No, it is. That piece of glass went somewhere. I'm not exactly sure where it went. Angle grinder to deconstruct. I don't want to deconstruct that. There we go. I'll leave the mold open. I guess we just did a test of that, so it is working. So this cable here for the LED... It's definitely not plugged in anywhere, because we're not picking it up. Alright, so... Let's do some digging. We're going to have to remove some flooring. I don't know where my piece of glass went. Alright, so that's a lot of my walls. This is why you really need to test proof of concept. Okay, so that leads out here, but doesn't connect. It'd be pretty easy to connect, to be honest. So, let's get that hooked up. There. And now it's happy. Good. Okay. Well, that was a lot of stripping parts off and removing them and redesign for not a whole lot of benefit. There is a cable here that, whoa. Goes nowhere. We can pull this cable up. Well, actually, no. This needs to be plugged in as well. So it goes nowhere, but it should go somewhere. So that is the active vent that needs to be turned on when we run this all. And of course the door needs, you know, power. So we'll get that squared away. Okay. Jetpack can be off. Walls. Let's put them all back. One there. One on the floor. And then Windows. I think I had 2 windows, but I only really needed 1. Window. So this is an extra wall unit. We'll slap the plastic sheets back down. And then I'm going to have to redo this console a little bit too. Alright, the plastic sheets for this window is being a little fussy. Come on. Alright, then the other issue I foresee is we pulled off the glass, and I really, truly do not know where it went. It didn't go into the furnace, because we opened up the mold, and the mold, while open, didn't have it. So, and it shouldn't be anywhere in the chute system, because it would present itself. Things used to get, once upon a time, stuck in these chutes, but I think most of those types of bugs have been long worked out. It used to be that you could get a whole bunch of stuff sort of stacked up. Did it fall underneath somehow? I'm not seeing any glass down there. So we're just going to have to steal glass from somewhere else, like I did before. And then one of the first things we'll smelt is a big, nice helping of silicon so that we can get our glass back. Alright. At this point, let's go ahead and hook up this console and see if there's any other things it should control. So ActiVent. So let's see. The control room vent, and this is the furnace room vent. It should control both. I'm not going to have access to the furnace room vent manually soon, so yes. So this controls the reagents LED, yes. It controls no pumps. What about vents? Control room vent. So the furnace room vent is not plugged in. And yes, that is true. In stripping out all of our logic, we damaged a lot of other things. It's sort of like when you're trying to renovate a building, sometimes you have to smash a few walls and things go unplugged. Outlets go uncontrolled. Okay. Now the only issue with controlling these vents through a console like this is sometimes when you have power consoles, the vents don't really work. So as you can see right here... Oh, actually, no, that might be true. I think what's happening is these vents aren't actually working. They're not toggling on and off. They turn on, but they don't turn on their suction. That is a fairly common bug. Just throwing it out there. It's a fairly common bug, so what I might need to do is to have those vents controlled elsewhere. Which is annoying, but, you know, I'm not here to debug Stationeers. That's not my day job. Alright, so this window, let me try to get a line of sight on it. There we go. Now, if the vent worked correctly, when we turned on the power console, the vent would turn on, and everything would be vacuumed out of this room. And clearly that is not the case. I'm not sitting in a vacuum here. So, what I'll do is... it will just be one extra step I have to do every time. But for this vent, the control room vent, I'll take it off of the... power network here, and I'll just control it manually. Sometimes they have to be controlled manually like that. Alright, so the temperature and pressure, for whatever reason, inside that furnace is raising? Interesting. So the furnace pump switch should pull gas out of the furnace, so let's go make sure that that switch is working. Yep, I do believe it is. So that is the output, and that's the furnace pump. It was set to 1 liter. Let's crank that up to 100. I think what was happening was, it was set to 1 liter because the switches I had there, when they turn on and off, they send a signal of 1 on the data network, and a signal of 1 to a furnace pump means set your volume to 1. Which is why the volume pump was basically disabled. And then, of course, we turn off the furnace pump, and the furnace pump back here should turn off. And as you can see, it does not interfere with my power grid anymore, which is good. Alright. Turning the pump back on. So down is close is on. Yeah, it's a little inverted, but whatever. It doesn't really matter. I have some gas in my tank. I have some gas in the tank. It will be slowly filling up because I'm pulling Atmo while this door is open. So if I close that door, it won't be pulling Atmo anymore. Now this one is also pulling Atmo, but what I do is I need a bunch of... This vent honestly can be forever on, just because vents are kind of annoying. There's also, I run the risk of every time I load into the game, that vent might not work. It's just the nature of vents, and sometimes they're fussy. So I have this vent now is going to be manually controlled. And if I have to leave a vent on, yeah, it's a little bit of power, but it's power I can spare. I'm just making sure that these vents are working by toggling them on and off. So at this point, I'm just about ready to smelt some stuff. Because I need glass. I'd like to fully enclose my furnace room. So let's go over here, eat some fries for all of my good effort of troubleshooting. And then silicon, right? I'm after silicon. So 1, 2, and 3. It's a whole lot of silicon. Now the joy of silicon is I'll also get a whole lot of nitrogen out of the smelting of the silicon. Alright, switching my belts over to the smelt belt. That's what I'm going to call it. Taking a look at when everything is on, because pretty much everything is powered on in the in this furnace contraption. This draws from my atmospherics, and I draw at 2.2 kilowatts, so I'm about halfway to browning out. Not that close, in other words. Okay. So now it is true vacuum in here, and my furnace is all pumped out, so there's nothing in the furnace. Let's go ahead and put my belt away, so I don't accidentally put my belt into the furnace. Grab 1 oxite and 2 volatiles. I'll put the oxide in. Oops, I just stacked it. Oh, goodness me. Okay, I'll use... Alright, so the oxite's in. Reagents does not seem to be reading correctly. So before I hit activate, let me double check that that's true. It could have melted automatically. No, there's a reagent in there. Let's see what's going on. My reagent reader reads 0. This furnace cable is wired all the way there. And the writer is the reader, the LED, and maybe it's not setting. Maybe I have that wrong. Mode, color. No, it should be setting. It's really, the reader should be grabbing reagents. So furnace. Reagents. Maybe oxide doesn't count as a reagent. Let's see if that's true. I'm just gonna proceed as if that's true. So if we hit activate, we get some pressure and temperature. That part worked. Let's go back to our belt here and split 2 volatiles out. And as you can see, they're not melting because activate again, temperature's up, And pressure's up. Good, good, good. Okay. Let's go ahead and grab our silicon now. And see if reagents read. Yeah, they read. And I'm just going to open the mold. Because I'm not making a compound. I'm just smelting. So as soon as it's ready to come out, we'll pop it on out. Okay, so we lost required temperature there. It got too cool, I suspect. So I'll put, you know what, I'm going to make it real hot. Because I'm doing a whole lot here, right? So I have a whole lot of volatiles in there, and now the remainder of my oxide. Alright. It's now glowing hot, so this should not be an issue. And what we'll do is we'll just do a run of 100. Okay, open the mold. Ta-da! And power off. Now, powering off doesn't mean anything because the furnace is still glowing hot and everything is ready to go. It's just I turn everything, all the pumps and whatnots off so that I'm not using up unnecessary power. What we do need is some glass. I stripped out a whole lot of glass in my base, and then we have a whole lot of windows around the furnace that needs to be constructed. This base will need a whole lot of glass before it's done. But I do want to finish off this furnace here. Now, another thing I wanted to demonstrate is the beauty of gas capture. Because what's the point if it doesn't help me, right? So the reason why I wanted to gas capture is taking a look at how many moles of N2 I generated here. So I generated 45... Oh, actually, that's not even what I generated. So if I look at the furnace itself, because I haven't vented it out, I generated 200 moles of nitrogen from that smelting. And also 300 moles of pollutant. And if we take a look at how much we have here, I have 26k moles of nitrogen. So in a little bit of smelting the silicon, I've generated a significant amount of nitrogen. And these tanks have been pressurizing nitrogen for like hours and hours and hours and hours. If I captured gas, and it's even more prevalent if I look at my pollutant. So I have 2,600 moles of pollutant. I just generated 300 moles of pollutant. I generated a lot of pollutant really, really quickly, which would have been really, really nice and will be really, really nice to use as air conditioning coolant. That's basically what pollutant is in this game for now. It might get another use later on. But for now, it's just air conditioning. I guess you could weaponize pollutant in multiplayer. You could have a canister of pollutant and release it in enemies' bases. And that would make their base unbreathable. I'm just spitballing here. I'm not saying that should be done, because in multiplayer and Stationeers, it's pretty much exclusively cooperative, where you are really discouraged from trolling other players. In fact, most people will ban you off their servers if you do it. So now I'm just running around replacing some of the windows that I took. And I'll put the glass away. So let's go ahead and... What do I need? I need electrum, right? So if I want electrum, I'm gonna need some copper, and I'm gonna need actually, electrum is gold and silver, so I'm gonna need some gold and silver. So here's my silver, here's my gold. Let's go try to make electrum. I don't have any oxide on me, though, so it's up to whether this furnace is hot enough or not. So let's, go at... Yeah, the furnace looks pretty cold. But electrum... Let's see. Electrum needs... It might work. Or it might just come back as a generic blob. I'm not sure. Yep. Just a reagent mix. Okay. It's too cold. One of the issues is that the recipes are in Kelvin. So, and then the, my temperature reader's in Celsius. So 700 Kelvin is 426 Celsius. Actually, that should be hot enough. What is it? It's probably pressure. It's, yeah, right now I'm too pressurized. So if I can quickly pump out some of my pressure, I can actually make electrum. So I need to bring my pressure down to 2.4 K. There we go. And this will make electrum. Ta-da! Look at that. Wonderful. So one thing I could do is convert the temperature here from Celsius to Kelvin, but that's a little complicated. Not gonna lie, it's just a little complicated. So there we are. We just made electrum, and now I can sort of, if I, ouch, Jesus, that scared me. I've been flying around a while now, and I hadn't damaged my heavy suit. Woo! That was, okay. My heart is good. I'm not having a heart attack. So let's go ahead over here and check out what... Oh, actually, we can't even check out what gases we generated with that because it's all locked up into the furnace right now. So I'm going to go pump out the furnace. And then as we pump out the furnace, we can always add some functionality. As we pump out the furnace, we could see what sort of gases we've added. So we have some N2O, which is pretty cool. I hadn't had any N2O up until now. I hadn't even generated it. But that also means that I need a filter for it, I think. Filter. So nitrous oxide, but we've been using heavy filters. We're going to need electrum, steel, and copper. Lucky for me, I know exactly where some electrum is. And my copper's in here. And my steel should be in here. And we'll make just one of it. And let's go back over. At this rate, my furnace is empty. It is vacuum. And in fact, the room that it's in... So when the furnace outgasses it, I'm also capturing that gas too in this active vent now. Alright, so we have a little bit of nitrous oxide. We have some hydrogen gas, teeny bit of it. We got some beautiful nitrogen as well. Let's see. If we want to see what's in the furnace, what I really want is... Maybe I'll extend this pipe out a little bit. It's kind of cheating, but it will tell me what is in the furnace a little bit more easily. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Which means I need a wrench and some pipes. That adds a little bit of volume to the furnace, but not enough to really make the furnace inoperable or anything like that. It should work fine. It's just I'm adding one more pipe like that. And now with this, let me just put these back. Sort of. With this additional pipe, I should be able to read what's, when I want to know, I should be able to read what's in the furnace. And I could add yeah, so the furnace is empty. Totally empty. And then, I have a bunch of nitrogen. I have. Oh, that is interesting. The tank. Okay, so the pipe, as you can see, reads a lot more nitrous oxide and a lot more nitrogen. That's a significant amount of nitrogen for my base, and a lot of pollutant. The tank is balancing it, so the tank only has a small percentage of the total, has like a fifth. But there's a lot of volume in these pipes, and at the moment, it's a little too hot, I would say, to vent into my my general storage, but I'm going to do it anyway because I have so much gas in the general storage. And what will end up happening is some of my the storage here will be hot. The new gases that I've never really filtered will be a little hot. And then of course this here can't filter at all because I don't have a nitrous oxide filter for it. So let me go get that with my newly smelted electrum. There. And now it's filtered. So we have some volatiles here, which can be used as coolant. If I want to use it as coolant, obviously it helps to cool it down, but we have a teeny bit of volatiles, and then we have some nitrous oxide as well. Our nitrogen went up probably a bunch because we got all that beautiful nitrogen out of that smelting process, and then our pollutants went up as well. Actually, volatiles aren't my they're not my coolant. The pollutant is. The volatiles I could use to actually feed the furnace. If I wanted to combine oxygen here with volatiles, that's pretty much fuel, right? That's what's in my welding can, in my welder torch. So I haven't ever done this, but if you drop the welding torch here, there's actually a can of fuel here. How that fits into the welding torch, don't ask. But if you analyze this, it's 2/3 hydrogen, 1/3 oxygen, which is exactly what I put into the furnace when I want to smelt things, right? I add 2 volatiles and one oxide. Oxide is mostly oxygen. And, alright. Let's put the can back in. Here we go. So the stuff I just, you know, capturing volatiles and capturing nitrous oxide and all that, good stuff. And at this point, I could add digital pipe readers here. That would be a smart thing to do, but we are just about pumped out. So what I'm going to do is, yeah, let's add some digital pipe readers so I don't have to use my tablet every time I want to analyze anything. So I know what's going on. So that will be in the hydraulic pipe bender again, and it's going to be pipe analyzers. So we'll crank out 2 of these with some of the new electrum that we made. And all a pipe analyzer does is it basically tells you everything that a atmospheric analyzer would. But you install this on a pipe, and then you can go view it. So if I want a pipe analyzer here, I need to make that pipe a little bit longer. No problem. It adds a little bit of volume to the furnace, which means it's a little bit harder to get the pressure of the furnace up, but not so much an issue for me. And let's have it face down is fine. We'll have to plug that in as well. And then we also want a pipe analyzer for the rest of the storage, and I can put that here. Alright, let's plug these bad boys in. And that way I don't have to resort to, having my tablet out every time I'm curious what's in my furnace and what's in everything else. So another thing I could do here is maybe a half frame or something like that, just to get me a little closer to that other pipe analyzer. I could do a full frame. And just partially weld it. That ought to do. Just something that I can stand on. Oh, you know what? Actually, that won't do, because I have this active vent here. Yeah, I'll just have to make do. I could lower it, but I don't care enough to do that. Alright, so let's put all this stuff back. Apologies. I could always move that active vent if I needed to, but I don't want to rework too much. I just like leaving things alone if it's working. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. So this pipe analyzer here, I can see the pressure and the temperature 0, so there's nothing to analyze. And then here, you can see the pressure and temperature, and then the moles of everything. So the I have a teeny bit of nitrous oxide, a little bit of pollutant. It's mostly carbon dioxide in there, oxygen and nitrogen at microscopic amounts. The filter pump will take a while to pump out everything because it's a lot of volume, and the filter pump works best at moving high volume things and not low volume things. A back pressure could also work in that scenario, but I'm patient and I don't really care if it takes a while because I'll do spurts of sort of smelting. But the net result is you can see all the beautiful numbers here. So 18 kPa and 3.6 kPa and everything else has gone up as well. And then one of the really powerful tools of this project, not only am I doing gas capture, which can really help to fill my my base up with the gases it requires, but once I step into this beautiful room here, even during the day, my oxides, or my volatiles rather, are not melting. Actually, what is this? This is water? Yeah, let's melt some water. And filter pump. And melt some volatile too. I'll throw in all of my usable stuff like that. Okay, and let's leave the filter pump on. So now, what you'll see here is I'll have a little bit of water in the system. Yep, it's 56% water because I just melted some water to add to the water tank because my water tank was basically empty. So keeping both the keeping this on, as you can see, yeah, there's some nitrogen and volatiles and water coming through. So when you melt water, there's some nitrogen bound up in it. So the reason why I have nitrogen in it is because that's part of water. But as you can see, voila, I'm starting to get a little bit of water pressure. The beautiful things about gas capture. And that is my gas capture system in a nutshell. So now that I've debugged it, that will be about the end of this episode. I'll have to find a new project for next episode. If you have any tips, tricks, feedback for me, drop me a line. I really appreciate it. Know what I'm doing more or less in Stationeers, but I am no veteran. And any suggestions and helpful tips that you have goes a very, very long way. So to all the people that have been active in the Discord and helpful in the tips, thank you very much. I hope you tune in next time. Adios.